Welcome to a special edition of The Fighter and the Writer presented by DraftKings. We get you set for what they're calling the fight of the century. No, I'm not talking about Mora Manfredo 3. You got to wait a little more for that. Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford for the undisputed super middleweight championship of the world. Welcome to Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm Chris Mannix. He is the Latin snake, Sergio Mora. He's the fighter. I'm the writer. And Sergio, this is a big one. Really not since the Mayweather-McGregor days, the Mayweather-Canelo days, have we seen a fight of this magnitude here in Las Vegas. And it's a competitive one. Look at the odds makers for this fight. Canelo Alvarez, he is a slight favorite. Terence Crawford, he's a live dog. I know you have been waffling over the last couple of weeks. Waffling on what your pick is going to be. As we stand here, closing in on fight night, what's your pick?
Waffling, wavering, I'm confused because look, the closest this fight gets, I like Crawford, man. Crawford looks the size, he looks the part. I think he's pound for pound material. He has the right tools to beat a fighter like Canelo, who has the slow feet, who's a heavier puncher, but he also has heavy feet to go with it. He has a lot of wear and tear. He has a lot of fights under his belt. Crawford, even though he is slightly older, he has less wear and tear on his body. He has a longer reach advantage, and he fights from both stances. I just love Bud Crawford's chip on his shoulder. I love the chances he has, and since I'm waffling, the closer this fight gets, I'm liking Crawford to win this fight.
All right, let me address a couple of things that you said there. One, you said there's more wear and tear on Canelo Alvarez. And you're right, there is more mileage on those tires. He's fought more, he's gone the distance in a lot of fights. But point to a fight in like the last 3 years that has been particularly grueling for Canelo Alvarez.
Grueling, no, but the Dimitri Bivol fight.
That was 3+ years ago.
That was actually one of those fights where he couldn't get nothing started by the bigger men. He couldn't get past that jab, the footwork of Bivol, and that's what gives Canelo issues. It's footwork, it's a jab, and it's fighting at a distance. Terence Crawford can do that. He has the footwork, but he's a mean guy. He likes getting on the inside. He likes beating down opponents, but he's going to have to use his height, his feet, and his range and reach against Canelo. I see him doing all that.
Okay. I'm with Canelo on this one for all the reasons that the mob is about him. Canelo is the natural 168-pounder. Canelo, even though he didn't look great against William School, is still, in my opinion, a top 10 pound-for-pound talent. And even though there are some examples of smaller fighters moving up a couple of weight divisions to beat bigger fighters, more often than not, the other way around. I mean, yeah, not everyone is Sugar Ray Leonard beating Marvin Hagler. Not everyone is Roy Jones Jr. beating John Ruiz. More often than not, big guy who's great beats little guy who's great. And we just saw a pretty good smaller guy in Jermell Charlo just 2 years ago move up in weight and get wiped out by Canelo Alvarez. So I think Canelo, his size is going to matter, his skill set's going to matter. I think he finds a way to win a decision in this fight. So let me ask you about the size, because this is an area where you and I consistently disagree. Will size matter for either guy in this fight?
When a fighter like Terence Crawford, any brilliant boxer when has a fight IQ, doesn't really need size. They don't rely on that size. I mean, if you go back to when Canelo lost his first fight, it wasn't size that beat him, it was Mayweather Jr. Yes, he was a little green.
That was 12
it doesn't
years
matter.
ago.
Yes, he was green, but it was a jab. It wasn't a physical fight. It was footwork. And then, of course, Bivol made it physical. But that's not what Terence Crawford needs to do to win this fight. He needs to use his reach. He needs to be able to move around the ring, stay off the ropes, keep the fight in the middle ring, and go to the body of Canelo. That's the thing about these Mexican fighters. Whenever they have that granite chin down there, they don't have granite downstairs. You got to dig the body of Canelo. I can see Crawford doing that. I can see Crawford using the jab, lead right hands, turning southpaw, digging away at the body, and then getting on, not his bike, but boxing around the ring. I see a lot of ways, a lot of avenues for Crawford to have success. Can he do it to the finish line? That's going to be the million-dollar question. Size does matter when it gets to the latter part of the fight, when it gets to the 9th, the 10th, the 11th round. That's when it matters.
Do you think Crawford's going to knock him out in the first 6?
But that's when greatness comes out. Do you think Terence Crawford is great?
I think he's great.
I think he's absolutely
great too.
I think they're both great. Okay. But this is a moment where Crawford wants to shine.
Second half of the fight, those 14 pounds that Terence Crawford is carrying, the fact that he has never, ever fought at this weight, the fact that he's only fought once above 147 pounds, I guarantee you, on Sunday morning, we're talking about that extra weight. All right, you kind of touched on this, but the best chance for victory for Terence Crawford, what would you say it is?
It has to be a decision. He's not going to knock out a fighter that's never been knocked down, okay? So it has to be a decision. I don't care how close this fight is. As long as he squeaks out these early rounds, he can steal the rounds. He can flurry at the end of rounds. He can't let the crowd get into it. So he needs to sway the judges by not keeping the fight quiet. The quieter this fight is, the better it is for Crawford. He needs to pot shot. He needs to use the jab. He needs to stay off the ropes. He can't fight on the inside. Do not fight the bigger fight on the inside. That's the number one thing where size is going to be a factor. And when he does get hit, is he going to take the whole impact of that punch? If he can roll with the shot, those are things that a smaller man brings to the table with a bigger man. So path to victory is obviously a decision. Boxing, I don't care how close it is, Crawford has all the tools to do it all the way to the end.
I think a decision is probably Terence Crawford's best way to win as well. Look, he's going to have to stick and move. He's going to have to use his feet. He's going to have to use the entirety of the ring. I think he's going to be able to do it in the first half of the fight. But again, weight matters. I think that size is going to wear down on him, and it's going to become more of a fight in the phone booth in the second half. And I don't think that's the right fight for Terence Crawford. I think both of you and I agree. One way or the other, it's going to be a competitive fight.
Oh, yeah.
I think both these guys are skilled enough to take this to a decision. You like the odds of a draw in this one?
I really do. I mean, and if you look at the odds, it's not a one-sided fight. They're not even 2-1. It's like less than 2-1. So that goes to show you that the book here in Vegas knows something. They see something. They respect something in Crawford. And that's exactly what fighters like me and champions like Timothy Bradley and other fighters are giving a champion, a great fighter like Crawford, all the chances in the world to do something great. So, I mean, that's what these fights are about. That's why they're so intriguing. And that's why I keep going back and forth or waffling, like you say, because it's greatness that we're going to witness.
I think if you're Crawford, you can't go into this fight expecting to get the benefit of the doubt from the judges.
No.
Like, in Las Vegas, I wouldn't say that Canelo's undefeated, because he's not. But he gets a lot of favorable decisions. When the rounds are close, they lean towards Canelo Alvarez. So I think if you're Bud Crawford, you've got to be aggressive earlier on. You've got to try to start banking some of those early rounds. All right, so for those that like to parlay their picks, we're going to give them some 3-fight parlays here. And Sergio, I'm going to read yours right off the bat. You've got Canelo against Crawford to win. Callum Walsh against Fernando Vargas Jr., you've got Vargas to win. Christian Mbili against Lester Martinez, you've got Mbili to win. Your parlay, if it hits $100, pays $1,594. Which of these fights are you maybe most nervous about?
The Fernando Vargas Jr. one. I love Freddie Roach in the corner of Walsh. I think that's going to be the toughest one. But I also love what I see with Vargas. I see the chip off the old block with his father. That's the one that I'm kind of on the fence about, but all the other ones I'm pretty confident about.
All right, my 3-fight parlay is Canelo Alvarez to beat Terence Crawford. I like that by decision. Callum Walsh over Fernando Vargas Jr. I like Walsh in that one. And Muhammad Alakal versus John Ornelas. I like Alakal to win that fight by decision. And my parlay hits not quite as lucrative as Sergio's, $309 on that parlay, but it's a much safer bet because I think Callum Walsh is a better fighter than Fernando Vargas Jr. I think he's just like a little bit more in his bag than Vargas does. He's faced a little bit better competition as well up until this point, and Freddie Roach, like you said, has been talking up Callum Walsh all week long. And Alakal, we've seen over in Saudi Arabia, win some big fights. He's had some good trainers in his corner over the last few years. Not a huge puncher, but Alakal, I think, wins that fight by decision. All right, as we wrap things up, let's take a look at some of the long shot bets out there you can put your money on, maybe make a little more along the way. Let's start with Crawford to be knocked down and Alvarez to win by decision. That's at plus 450. What do you think of that one?
I don't see Crawford getting knocked down. I don't see Canelo getting knocked down, so Canelo decision is a smart bet.
Yeah, but that's a good long shot to take. Canelo has knocked down opponents in the first half of fights in 2 of his last 3 fights. Jaime Munguia went down. Edgar Berlanga went down. I think that's a pretty good bet. Plus 450, I like that one. All right, Canelo to get knocked down and Crawford to win by decision, plus 1,400.
Crawford to win it by decision. Canelo is not going down. But I'm picking Crawford to win this fight. Waffling, like you said, I'm going back and forth. I like Crawford in this fight, and I like him by decision.
Yeah, but not with the Canelo knockdown. Canelo has never been knocked down in his career. There was only one time that he was close, and that was back in 2010 when he fought Jose Miguel Cotto. A lot of time has passed, and he has faced a lot of great fighters since then. I don't see that happening here. All right, Crawford to get knocked down in the first minute of any round. This is one that I like, Sergio, because it is plus 500 at this point. And I think if Canelo is going to get a knockdown, it's going to be early in some of these rounds.
You know what? That's not a bad bet. A flash knockdown. It doesn't have to be a real knockdown, but when a smaller fighter is moving up, sometimes the impact of that force, of that punch that he's not accustomed to, it could be an off-balance shot. Sprinkle some money on that knockdown. I like that.
Crawford to get knocked down, or to be knocked down and win by KO or TKO. $0. I'm putting $0 on that. I'm sorry. I can see a path to victory for Terence Crawford. I do not see that victory coming by knockout.
No way. I mean, that's a foolish bet, because look, Crawford is not going to be there to get hit, and I think Crawford takes a good punch as well. Mean chip on his shoulder. He fights long. He has a longer reach. You can expect him to use it. It's not going to be an inside fight.
All right, Canelo Alvarez to win in round one. A lot of zeros attached to this one. Plus 10,000 on Canelo by first round knockout.
No way. I mean, I'll stay away from that. I stay away from all first round knockouts, even if they're heavyweights. I'm not a fan of the first round knockout.
Yeah, you have to go back to Canelo's very, very, very early days to find him doing that. Even Avni Yildirim lasted a couple of rounds. So I think Terence Crawford is going to last more than that. Both fighters to be knocked down in round one and round two. That is plus 100,000. Your thoughts?
That's lunacy. I mean, look, I'm a gambler. We're in Las Vegas. I'm a gambler. I like rolling the dice, but I'm also a smart gambler, and I don't think that can possibly happen. I don't think lightning strikes twice like that, and no, stay away from that.
I'm just glad these odds weren't around when you were active, because you would have taken a dive on several of these. You would have bet on a lot of these if it meant you were cashing in on that. So a lot of good prop bets to make, a lot of good bets to make for Canelo Crawford Saturday night here in Las Vegas. And on DraftKings Sportsbook, all new customers can bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code DAZN when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours.